It's a very good evening and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi. Now, South Africa has been experiencing terrible xenophobic attacks in Johannesburg and Durban in the last week. Tonight, we'll tell you about how people in other parts of Africa have been seeing this story through social media. It hasn't been good news for South Africa in the latest World Economic Forum ICT report, and that will be the topic of our discussion tonight. We are live. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. We're a news network at sabc.co.za on email. Let's start with your technology and social media news. Now, social media has played a critical role in sharing the story of xenophobic attacks with many outside South Africa. Different African countries have been telling different stories through different hashtags. What crosses the border, though, through social media isn't always the full picture. Then there is also an issue and a threat to South African technology companies that have staff members in other African countries. In the last week, the xenophobic attacks that started in Durban spread to Johannesburg, and social media played a critical role in telling the story. Those outside South Africa have largely relied on social media to find out what's happening in the country.
The hashtag, of course, is getting a lot of traction online, especially on Twitter. People also engaging on it with Instagram, pictures of what they're saying in terms of protests, people banding together, people also making their statements about people not being xenophobic. So it really is a growing movement.
The narrative tends to paint South Africa as a peculiarly xenophobic country, as it were, and nothing could be further from the truth, given our history or recent and some from way back, that at different points in time, certain countries have exhibited xenophobic tendencies, but because now you have South Africa as, you could say, a newcomer to the independence movement and so on and so forth, we are witnessing this. So the discourse that's being pushed is that South Africa is a xenophobic country. But is this true, and to what extent can it be proven that this is what's happening, despite what we have seen so far?
In Kenya, there was the dominant hashtag xenophobic SA. In Zimbabwe, there was xenophobia SA. Then there were some photographs re-emerging as new, like a photo of a burning Mozambican man, Ernesto Nyamuwave, who died in 2008. The photo is getting shared as new in social media as something that is happening right now in South Africa. And many viewing the story of xenophobic attacks through social media from outside South Africa's borders have not been happy.
They would primarily follow maybe people of their own nationalities who are living in South Africa. But when you have a big event or a big movement, such as is happening with some South African artists going to perform in Zimbabwe, for instance, I know Casper Nyovest is one of them, and there has been mobilization on social media to say, let's boycott Casper Nyovest's show because South Africa is a xenophobic country.
South Africa also has technology companies that have operations in other parts of Africa. Vodacom has a presence in Tanzania, Mozambique and Congo. As there have been general threats on South Africans in other countries, the South African mobile phone network operator says it's ensuring the safety and well-being of all Vodacom employees working across the continent. It also says it will provide any technology expertise that could be needed by South African authorities in fighting xenophobia in the country. While Vodacom is the biggest mobile phone network operator in South Africa, its competitor MTN is the biggest across the continent. MTN's biggest market is Nigeria. The South African company also has presence in Ghana, Rwanda and Uganda. The company says it doesn't see itself as a foreign group in the countries in which it operates, as most of its employees would be from those countries. MTN has, however, condemned xenophobic attacks that are currently taking place in South Africa. A University of Johannesburg student recently found out how easy it is to get hacked. All it took for her was to log on someone else's phone. Now she has an active Facebook account, but she cannot get into the account. Someone else has taken over her identity on Facebook.
University of Johannesburg student Asipe Pali was receiving threats from friends on campus. They were accusing her of sending them insulting messages on Facebook. She knew nothing about this.
Tracking down my ex-boyfriend, and then they tried to talk to them and say that I'm saying we should get back together. I didn't mean it when I said our relationship was over. I still have him, I still need him in my life, and so forth. And the guy had actually moved on with his life. I found out that he actually had a child and was with the mother of a child. And then that didn't work out because the guy told me on Facebook that he's moved on. So this person went on to the channels of going to the mother, because the mother was also on the Facebook, and then through other family members of his to talk to him on my behalf that we must make amends and make things right for us to go back together.
Asipe tried to investigate, but she immediately realized she had been hacked. So she went to the police. The police couldn't help. That was when Asipe realized her local police station didn't have expertise to deal with cybercrime. She then blocked the account, but Facebook kept it active.
I did it myself. I created another account on Facebook, and then I reported it as if I'm a friend to myself. And then also my sister reported it, and recently a friend of mine also reported it, but we haven't gotten any response, because Facebook also says when you report you must choose 3 people within your Facebook account that are going to be alerted and use certain codes so that you can delete and deactivate the account completely, but we haven't gotten any of that.
Tsepo Mokhetwa also believes his Facebook and phone have been hacked.
Even when you receive an SMS, when it comes to your phone, somebody else can receive that SMS, which means your number is unprotected anymore. Remember, if a number goes through the server of the service provider, it has to go through the server of whatever, I don't want to mention them, but a service provider, that if your number is not protected anymore, they can't even pick it up.
In the case of Asipe, it becomes clear that she had used someone else's device to log on to Facebook. The lesson here is clearly not to use other people's devices, and if it cannot be avoided, then it is essential that one logs off.
Let's see what the rest of the tech world got up to in the last week.
The digital space has been a buzz since the unveiling of the Apple iWatch on April 10th. The luxury smartwatch has been receiving mixed reviews following its highly anticipated reveal.
With a new item like a new watch, there may be some production problems. For instance, they're making all these different variations on it. Perhaps they're having problems, figuring out which ones they want to make and rolling out these chips for these new devices. So with new devices, you have to give the company a bit more benefit of the slack.
Analysts say that almost 1 million pre-orders for the smartwatch has put Apple under supply constraints, and that consumers should not expect the device on store shelves anytime soon. Meanwhile, another tech giant, Google, has been under the spotlight in Europe this week. The search engine has been accused of cheating consumers and competitors by altering web search results to favor its own shopping services. These are findings from an investigation conducted by the European Union.
Our preliminary view in the statement of objection is that in its general internet search result, Google artificially favors its own comparison shopping service, and that this constitutes an abuse.
Google has strongly disagreed with these complaints and would make the case that its products have nurtured competition and benefited consumers. Now moving on from Brussels to New Delhi. Rickshaws, otherwise known as tuk-tuks here in South Africa, will be added on the Uber app transport list in India's capital city of New Delhi. Uber is a taxi-hailing mobile app. Still on the continent of Asia, this is a self-made brain-controlled robot.
This is our brainwave electrode cap, which can collect human brainwaves. The facility can enlarge the weak brainwaves and send back to our computers. This is the collected brainwave produced by human brain while working.
This invention was tested in Changsha City in China's Hunan province.
It It's SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Remember, after the break, we'll talk about the WEF ICT report. Stay with us.
Get your issue of Evoke magazine at sabcevoke.co.za or download the app on iOS or Android and immerse yourself in our world.
I would say there's no supplements or minerals, something that you can take will completely prevent cancer.
Although vitamins help the body produce and use energy, they do not provide energy themselves because they don't contain calories. Supplements also cannot be used to replace foods or make up for poor dietary habits.
Cases in Liberia are currently doubling every 15 to 20 days, and those in Sierra Leone and Guinea are doubling every 30 to 40 days.
Hi, I'm Dr. Silo Mutau. Watch Health Talk every Saturday on SABC News.
Welcome back. Now, the World Economic Forum has released its 2015 Global Information Technology Report, and it's not pretty reading in regard to South Africa. The country has slipped 5 places on the index to the 75th spot when compared to 142 countries rather. And as South Africa keeps dropping down the rankings, other African countries are climbing up the ICT index. Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, ahead of South Africa, also dropped to 119.
Mauritius and the Seychelles may be small island nations off the coast of the continent, but they're proving to be African giants in the uptake of information and communication technologies, ICTs. This is according to the 2015 Global Technology Index issued by the World Economic Forum. The index measures factors such as ICT infrastructure and digital content, the usage of ICT and its social impacts, and lastly, policy regulation. Compared to 140 other countries from around the world, Mauritius ranks 45th while the Seychelles sits at 74th position. This is 1 place higher than South Africa on the index.
You have more of the accelerators and incubators, but not the iHubs of SA, and I think there's massive potential there because I think there's a simmering of ideas. The statistics indicate that SA has infrastructure, SA has a consumer base, and it's just where can these new ideas start coming from and where are people testing them out.
South Africa has consistently dropped on the WEF Technology Index. It is said the country is failing to grasp the opportunities that are presented by the adoption of technology. While tiny island nations like Mauritius and the Seychelles are surprise contenders in ICT adoption, more recognized competition is also posed by countries such as Kenya in East Africa.
We're seeing, we started with the hype around mobile, and there's a wave of possibility around mobile tech, mobile apps, and now we're starting to look into what else can be done in the tech space given the resources we now have. So we're seeing a lot of insight into Internet of Things. We're seeing a lot more of people trying to look into hardware as well. So it's now really starting to widen and really expanding sort of ideas because people have finally accepted that tech is here to stay, tech is the future. The consumption is on top, reeling, ready sort of consumer base. Now it's just to create stuff that's authentic and homegrown, homemade.
While Africa as a whole is ranked lowly on the WEF Technology Index, locals expect more of South Africa. And the country urgently has to increase its adoption of ICTs as it is proven that this adds to economic growth and social upliftment.
And to discuss South Africa's continuous tumble on the World Economic Forum's Global Technology Index, we are now joined in the studio by Adrian Schofield. He is the Vice President of the Institute of Information Technology Professionals of South Africa. Hello, and thank you for being a part of our network.
Thank you. Good evening, Simple.
Good evening. Now, what goes into compiling such reports?
They're based on fairly limited surveys of people who live in the countries that they're examining, business people who are looking to how they can develop their economy, businesses and so on, and looking to the skills that will be available to them and the infrastructure that will be available to them. It's a fairly small sample, so it can be a very subjective opinion. What's important is not, are we exactly, number 74, number 75, but are we in the top half or the bottom half? And if we're in a half, whereabouts in that half are we? So that we can then take action to improve our performance and therefore improve our rankings.
We're fairly in the middle. That's worrisome.
We are in the technology arena, yes. We should be higher. We've got very good basic infrastructure, the rollout of fiber technology, fiber communications, and we adopt technology very quickly, so you'll find a ready market for smartphones, tablets, those sort of things. The problem is we're not getting that deeply enough into our education system. So young people are only coming into contact with the tools that will enable them to perform better late in life. They should be comfortable with these devices from a very early age, and we need to address that as quickly as we can.
Now the government would say to you that they have been rolling out devices into schools such as laptops and tablets. They would say that there have been a lot of initiatives in the last 2 years. Not good enough?
Not good enough. Good initiatives, but small impact. And the real crime of the recent initiative in Gauteng, where they put tablets into schools, and within weeks of the initiation of the project, over 3,000 of them have been stolen. We can't progress with that sort of hiccup in what should be a good development.
You saying that we shouldn't really worry about where small islands like Seychelles and Mauritius are, should we?
Well, it's relatively easy for them to create the right impression that they are implementing good technology policies and rolling them out. It's not difficult to put fibre network into an island. South Africa has a lot more challenges in that respect and needs to put a lot more planning and effort into making it happen.
When you look at the reports closely, you realize that South Africa, in terms of scoring, hasn't dropped. It's dropped in terms of ranking. So is that fine? Should we be happy with that?
No. We live in a competitive world. And if our peers in Africa are moving ahead of us, it's a sure sign that we're stagnating when we should be growing.
What do you think needs to be done now?
We need to make sure that the policies we have, we have excellent policies. The policies we have in terms of broadband rollout, the policies we have in terms of uplifting education, and the currently draft National ICT integrated policy are turned into reality as quickly as possible. We can't go on saying we'll do things 10, 15, 20 years from now. We must have actions that take place in the next 12 months, 24 months that we can be measured on and perform.
Adrian, you involved in technology research. Now, would you say that this report is reliable enough? Does it give an accurate picture?
It's reliable enough. Accurate, maybe. All research can be questioned without a shadow of a doubt. But we should take from it the underlying message, not worry about whether or not we are 74th or 75th. We should be worrying about whether we are in the middle of the top half of the rankings. We have the potential to do that. It just needs us to work hard to achieve it.
And do you see a lot of will from government to do this?
Sometimes. Unfortunately, there have been quite a few changes in the responsibilities for technology adoption in South Africa, both within government and throughout the community, and that's confused the issue. We have some excellent ideas, but we need to have the critical mass behind those ideas to make them work.
And as opposed to implementation?
Yes. You know, you can always argue budget, but there's been a lot of time wasted, and that means money wasted. The digital terrestrial television story is typical of that. We could have done it many years ago and put it behind us, and then be using the spectrum that it would free up for us to improve other communications, other sharing of information, better education and so on. But until we complete that exercise, we can't move forward. And we're only starting the exercise in the year when we should be finishing it.
All right, well, Adrian Schofield, the Vice President of the Institute of Information Technology Professionals of South Africa, thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight.
Thank you.
All right, it's SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. Stay with us.
Media Monitor. The title says it all.
We do have a dilemma here because Lesotho is a sovereign country. I don't think it is the obligation of South Africa's media to even tell the people of Lesotho what's going on in Lesotho.
Join our panel of experts as they unpack and monitor all the leading and breaking news stories making waves in the print and social media platforms. That's Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali.
Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za. Thank you for joining us again. Now, Nomadigo was playing around with two gadgets that were developed in South Africa this week. One is the Vodacom Tablet 3G and the other is the Mobicell smartphone from its Desire series. They're both Android devices. Let's take a look.
The two devices that we're actually going to be looking at this week are from Vodacom and from Mobicell. This is from the Desire series, and it is actually a pretty great phone considering that it's an Android phone made in South Africa. What makes the Vodacom Tablet 3G a contender in the market is its Zulu language proficiency. The Mobicell is a well-made device that can compete with similar gadgets like the Samsung Mini. It has the ability to download applications and functions very well, as would be the case with international phones. The downside with this phone is its camera. It is only 8 megapixels. The Vodacom Tablet 3G is unable to make phone calls, as it has become the norm with others like it in the market. The only real disappointment is the camera, because today's devices have at least 4 megapixels on the cameras, but for its price range, the video resolution is also a bit worrisome. The 3G tablet can be a great tool for those who would like to travel on the continent, as it is also Portuguese and French capable as well.
Now let's take a look at some of what has been trending in social media. We warn you that some of these visuals are disturbing for sensitive viewers. South Africans in social media are still trying to make sense of these shocking visuals of the brutal murder of a Mozambican man, Emmanuel Stolle, in Alex, near Johannesburg. They were on the front page of the newspaper, the Sunday Times. Another shocker about this is that bystanders were watching as the stabbing was happening. The South African Music Awards are taking place tonight. Celebrities are already in Sun City, where they're celebrating. People in social media have been sharing pictures of their favorite music and TV stars' outfits. The Bahrain Grand Prix has also been trending in other parts of the world. And that's all we have for you. Remember to find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. We're on News Network at sabc.co.za and email. We've gotten used to seeing spectacular GoPro visuals used by skateboarders, surfers and other athletes. But GoPro visuals taken from outer space have got to be the best we have ever seen. We leave you with these awesome visuals from me and the rest of the team. Have a good one. Bye-bye.